Good afternoon to everyone, and a very warm welcome to another Thursday afternoon and more tea at Vicar. I've got a lovely cup of English tea this afternoon, and it's very strong. I think they call it builder's tea. I was thinking about tea this morning as I tried some Lapsang Souchong tea for my breakfast. It's a very, very smoky tea, and I inherited the tea from a Chinese gentleman who very, very kindly, after I had shown him around one of my churches on his way back to China and stopping off in London, he went into Whitard's and bought me a selection of teas and sent it to me. So I'm working through them slowly, but I must say I still don't like them as much as good old English tea. Lovely. Now, let's look at some national church news for today before we get on to a very action-packed programme. Well, in a recent newspaper article, it's been reported that the archbishops are feeling very upbeat despite the sadness of the pandemic. They were addressing a special one-day session of the General Synod, which met to approve changes to its constitution to allow remote decision-making online during the COVID pandemic. Both archbishops declared that the pandemic had caused a lot of sadness, pain, isolation and depression. The Church now must prepare itself for what lies ahead, with more hardships for our country. Archbishop Welby acknowledged how worship had got to change. But he said the darkness cannot overpower the light. The Church must continue to bless the nation, and the General Synod should look forward to the new church that God was loving into being. Well, also this week, and you may have seen a report on the television news in the light of the publication of the final report on the Anglican Church by the Independent Inquiry into Sexual Abuse. Our archbishops have described the report as a turning point in the Church's treatment of survivors. It is believed that the Archbishops' Council has set aside a large sum of money, have approved a pilot scheme for survivors and those still yet to come forward of abuse. A victim's advocate this week said that any sum offered to survivors of abuse should not be seen as an act of generosity, but as the very beginnings of paying its debt to the survivors. Well, now to some news from the Diocese of Salisbury. And as you know, Dorchester is only a very 5-7 miles here from Weymouth. And so some news from St. Peter's. Some of you may know St. Peter's in Dorchester, the church in the centre of the town. Well, the PCC of St. Peter's voted last week to remove a plaque commemorating the 18th century slave owner who is buried in the church grounds, saying that it's unacceptable. Use of language means that it is no longer appropriate to be in the church. The inscription, which is situated on the north interior wall of the church, pays tribute to a man called John Gordon, a plantation owner in Jamaica, who is buried in the church grounds. It celebrates his suppression of an uprising in 1760, which led to the death of 500 slaves. He died in Dorchester in 1744, aged 56. The church put up a sign in July condemning the inscription and said that it would consider removing the stone. The planning, application and process for the permanent removal of the stone will take several months. In the meantime, if you go in to St. Peter's, you will see a temporary cover has been placed over the monument. Well, some of our local church news from Holy Trinity now. Well, I'm delighted to report to you that we had the thumbs up from our Sunday school last Sunday. It was our Harvest Thanksgiving and we had a lovely, lovely service. And the Sunday school were delighted to have been offered a set of handbells to start handbell ringing. Although the church members can't sing, the choir of course can at the moment, the Sunday school, with a little help from some of us adults, have decided that we will start a handbell ringing group, mainly with our children. And Lizzie Peacock is going to work with our leaders and parents to teach the children. They're going to design their own sweatshirts to come up with a name which will go along with our own new church logo. It was thumbs up, and literally thumbs up if you were in church last Sunday. We look forward to some ringing. As I reported last week, and I feel it important to just stress again, that on Sunday, October the 18th, it's our annual parish church meeting. This is a very important meeting of the year in order to satisfy the requirements of the charity commissioners. We must hold this meeting. And at the annual vestry meeting, which comes just before the annual meeting, we shall elect our new churchwardens. We shall also hear a little bit about the proceedings of the church over the last year, and also elect our new PCC, deanery synod reps, and we shall hear reports from different parts and members of the church who arrange activities. Those who are on the electoral roll may vote at that meeting and also may ask questions, but you do have to be on the electoral roll. We shall be doing that in church on the 18th at 11:30 after our 10 a.m. parish Eucharist. People will be sitting distanced. They will be asked to sanitize their hands, and they should wear masks. I hope you will join us for that important meeting. The other thing I want to stress again is about giving. Giving is really, really important to us at this time, and thank you so much to those of you who have returned your plan giving envelopes. Our new envelopes are now out and can be picked up from the organ transept of the church. If you can't get to church, please do ask someone else to collect your envelopes. If you would like to join the scheme, please have a word with Philip Wise, our one of our church wardens, and he will tell you what to do. The other thing that is really important, that if you pay tax, it'd be really useful if you would gift aid what you give to the church. It helps us get an extra 25 pence back at no cost to you, but a great help to the church. And if you were able to increase your giving just a little, and I don't like asking this, but if you could just increase, even if it was just, a couple of pounds a week, if everybody did that, we would be really grateful. It's hard times for us all, and the church is really struggling, and we do have some major work that we need to action as soon as possible. And just to help you with thinking about that giving, here's a short video to help you.
During this difficult time when our church buildings are closed, we're still a church, meeting virtually for prayer services and fellowship, loving our neighbours by offering practical support to the vulnerable, and caring for our communities. The work of our church is reliant on people's generosity, a generosity that is a hallmark of a lived-out faith and a testament to it. We give to our church in a variety of ways, but with the closure of all our buildings, we cannot receive all the gifts that we usually would. So we really need your help now. If you're able to give more at this time, here's how you can help.
Well, on the 1st of November, it's All Saints' Day, a major solemnity of the Church of God. And on that day, which falls on a Sunday this year, the 1st of November, we shall be having a solemn Eucharist at Holy Trinity Church. And the liturgy that day will be complemented by some lovely All Saints music. Traditionally, on the 2nd of November, the day after, which this year is Monday the 2nd of November, is All Souls' Day. And this year we shall be having a 10:30 a.m. Requiem Eucharist at Holy Trinity Church. At that Eucharist we shall read out at the altar the names of all your loved ones who you have asked us to remember before God on that day. I'd like to invite you all to that Eucharist at 10:30 a.m. At the back of Holy Trinity Church at the moment, there is a board with the names of loved ones who we have remembered in the past. They're all in alphabetical order. If you have names to add to that list, please write them on the separate bit of paper next to the list. Please make sure you don't duplicate names on that list. If you're unable to get to church to do that, or to get somebody to enter names or check names for you, please do email me the names you want remembered, or telephone the office on 01 305 760 354, and we will do that for you. We look forward to welcoming you at church for both of those services. Well, I want to tell you now about a concert, another concert that's coming up at Holy Trinity Church on Wednesday, the 28th of October. It's a lunchtime concert, and I hope that you will be able to come at 1 o'clock for the concert. Here's a little bit of information about it. Well, I hope you got that, and I hope that you will come along. I love Baroque music, so I hope that you will find it lovely as well. And finally, in our news session this morning, someone, a dear friend, and if she's watching, she will know who she is, sent me this lovely video. It's called A Friendship Bouquet, and it's by Sapphire Productions, and the music is Nightingale Serenade. And it says at the end, pass it on to all your friends. So I'm passing it on to you this morning. I hope that you enjoy it. Wasn't that lovely? Really, really very inspiring. Thank you for sending that to me. Well, let's move on with our programme today now. And I'd like to introduce you to two very important people in our church at Holy Trinity, our churchwardens. I have been privileged in many years of being a priest to have had the most outstanding, dedicated, thoughtful, gifted churchwardens. And if you have been a churchwarden working with me over many years, I want to thank you for that, because your contribution makes the churches what they are. And it's no different here at Holy Trinity. I've got two outstanding churchwardens, and I'm going to introduce them to you. as they are going to tell us all a little bit about their role and what they've been up to.
Well, I'm in the Vicar's vestry today. We've just had our harvest Thanksgiving service, and we've just cleared up, and I wanted to catch our churchwardens before they go off home, because the role of churchwarden is a really important role in the life of any church, and it's a vital role, certainly for the clergy, and it's very important that the clergy get on with their churchwardens. So I'd like to introduce to you today Philip Wise and Steve Booth, who are the churchwardens here at Trinity. And I thought I'd just ask them a little bit about their role and what they have been doing since they have taken up their roles and how long they've been in post. So, Phil, if I ask you first, so how long have you been churchwarden here at Trinity?
I think this is my 3rd year, I think. Can't remember.
You've enjoyed it so much and it's gone so quickly.
There's been some challenges, but I have enjoyed most of it most of the time.
What do you think has been the most challenging since you've taken on the role?
£73,000 worth of roof repairs over the 3 years.
Yeah.
And we got another leak 2 weeks ago, so that's the new leak we've got to sort out.
Steve, what do you feel is a priority in being a churchwarden?
I think you've got to be able to be flexible and be able to deal with all different situations. You've got to be able to get on with people. I mean, it's good to get to know people. I mean, in this role, you really get to know your parishioners. You get to know them really quite well, and that's all very helpful as you continue to do the role. In my situation, it's doing lots of rotas and things like that. It's really understanding what people are willing to do and trying to encourage them to do various tasks and various other things to get them more involved. It's all quite challenging, but it's very rewarding. That's one side of it that I have to say I've enjoyed. The side that Phil's mentioned with the maintenance, that's very challenging also. It's also a situation where there's always something that needs doing in this church. It's an old church, but there's always repairs and various jobs that need to be done, so there's continually something going wrong somewhere. But the role of churchwarden, I mean, I know I'm dominating the conversation, and I will let Phil come back in, but I have to say that there's no job description, there's no sort of straightforward job description to this. You come in, and you've really got to think on your feet. I mean, you get some advice from previous churchwardens and perhaps a little bit from the vicar, but at the end of the day, you've got to think on your feet and really start, just learn as you go. And it's just so varied, and there's so much going on that it opens your eyes to really what is involved in the running of a church, a lot more than what people think.
The secret is not to have to do it yourself. The secret really is finding other people that can help. And that makes a big difference, and it's a joy when other people step in and help. But over the last 3 weeks, I think, we've had modifications to the organ access, the steps on the organ. The heating failed, so we had to call out the heating engineers. And then Andrew found a leak at one of the windows, so that had to be tidied up, and we had to get the cleaner to come back in and clean. So in 3 weeks, we've had 3 different jobs, plus all the other stuff we've got to do.
Not to mention the fire alarm.
The fire alarm. That's still got to be fixed.
Yeah.
But it's on his list. He's coming back 16th of October, I think, he told me.
But it all makes a difference, because this church is a wonderful church, and the way the acoustic works in this church, and now that services are getting more back to normality, although they're not quite there yet, but the music is enhanced, and there's so many good things happening now, and I'm seeing a lot more people come back, and that confidence to come back into church, and that's something that I want to see more of, because there's still people that are not coming back to church, and hopefully some of those people who may even be watching Morty Vicar will think about coming back to church, because there's a difference now. There's more energy, and with it, I go back to the music. There's so much more energy with our new director of music, James, and his wife Lizzie. So that there is definitely good things happening.
Yeah, and James at choir practice is saying, don't just sing to yourselves. You're in a beautiful building with a beautiful acoustic. Sing in the building, make the building sound like it should. And it's just wonderful. We're on the move, we're improving. The Sunday school is back thanks to Jenny Keats. And it was lovely to see them today at Harvest. And then Andrew made the announcement that we're going to get some handbells, and all the kids just put their thumbs up. And it's just going to be wonderful to get things back to a new normal.
Obviously, COVID has been a huge problem for us, for everybody. But how about the hopes and aspirations for the church when we come out of COVID? Tell me a little bit about the aspirations that we have and the hope we have for this church as we move forward.
Well, we had a PCC meeting a long time ago now with the sale of St Nicholas. That will fund the redevelopment, the reordering of the main body of Holy Trinity. We want to make it much more of a community asset. So as someone said on the PCC, it's not just about the church being open on a Sunday. We want this church as a community asset to be open 7 days a week, if we can.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, because of its position, it's the town's church, it's the fisherman's church, it's the church that people know, it's a church that people who don't go to church know because of its position on the town bridge. And a community hub or a community unit is a great community asset. And there's so many more things that can happen in this church for different aspects of engaging with the community to do different things. The potential is there. And clearly, you know, there's some challenges, but the potential is there, and the sale of St Nick's church and land is really going to hopefully make a difference. But you mentioned COVID earlier on. I mean, COVID has a massive impact on our church life, as it has in everybody's life. But you know, when we come out at the other end of that, we've still got these aspirations to make a difference. And when we finally get that funding through, and we start to reorder the church and some of the great plans that we've got, that really should have an impact on the future use of the congregation and as we move forward. So that would be really good.
And with James and Lizzie leading the music, hopefully there'll be a children's choir formed. And the buzz around the church when the children are here is just wonderful. And you know, let's hope it can continue.
Well, you're sitting in front of the rogues gallery of clergy who've served at the church over the years, and I look around, and it's been a very, very significant church in the diocese over many years. And as I look at the pictures, I see curates who appear again as bishops, and incumbents who've gone on to be archdeacons and bishops as well. But Phil just needs to check.
And most of them have kept their hair, unlike church wardens that they could go grey before that.
Hang on a minute, Phil. I am going to fix it,
but dare I ask you about an important aspect of the role is working with the vicar. And of course, from my point of view as the vicar, I have to say that you're both very exceptional church wardens, and you know, we get on well, and it's really important that we have a very, very good working relationship, and in fact that I'm able to discuss with you anything about the life of the church, and I must say that here, as I have done in other parishes, I've seen my church wardens as key players in the life of the church, and nothing happens without sharing that with them. And you have actually, both of you, have become more than church wardens, but friends, and that makes all the difference, I think, when you're running a busy parish. Do you think that relationship is very important?
Oh, absolutely. When Steve and I were appointed, we made a promise to ourselves that we'll look after the building and you can look after the cure of the souls.
Right.
And most of the time that's worked. But I know you were out with the mop and bucket when we had the leak above the window.
You know, I'm awful for interfering. I'm sorry about that.
You mentioned relationships, and that's obviously key. And I mentioned about getting to know parishioners earlier on in our discussion. And the relationships is very important. And Phil and I have known each other for quite some time, and some time before we became churchwardens, around about 3 years ago. But we've also formed a relationship in the pub. Now that is important because it's helped Phil and I have been able to have many discussions and sort out many issues, some related to the church, some related to the church, some perhaps not. It's all very helpful in forming our relationships. And we used to have that Harbourside office those years ago.
Yes.
And we used to sit on that bench and watch the boats go by just near the town bridge, just down from the church, and then someone would come along and say, "You're late for choir practice."
Yeah, you're late for choir practice.
But
Sorry, we're having a churchwarden meeting.
So Phil, you have been churchwarden for 3 years. Steve, you've been churchwarden for
Same.
three. You're both 3 years. Next, a fortnight's time, we've got our annual parish meeting. And Steve, you're standing down this time because of work commitments and family commitments, and we shall be very sorry for you to go. And I'm pleased to say that Phil is going to stand again. And what will you take with you in your experience of being churchwarden, Steve?
Take with me many things really, from just getting things done, from building up relationships with people, from just being able to just see the progress that we've made. And we've made a lot of progress over the years, and we've had some difficult challenges, and we've overcome them, and we moved forward, and there's a lot of aspiration here in this church. And you know, I see it with yourself and I see it with Phil, and I hope that continues. And I'm still around, but I'm not going to be in the same role. But
Well, I'll still be picking your brains when Steve, do you know somebody that can do this? Well, he might be. So we'll still be in touch, and Steve will still be helping, I'm quite sure.
And I still have my season ticket for the doghouse. But no, I take away a lot of things because it's a real learning curve, as I said earlier, and there's lots of enjoyable parts to it because you know you're making a difference. I mean, I've done a lot of things like intercessions, and I really enjoy doing that, as well as readings and things like that. Some of the engagement with the parishioners it has been really rewarding, and some of the thank yous you get, you know, from behind the scenes when people thank you, they all make a difference, and that's all very enjoyable, and so you take away a lot of good and positive things from that role.
And the parishioners have been kind to me when I'm reading. They sort of forgive my Geordie accent. So it works at all.
Well, I just want, first of all, to thank you, Steve, for your time as churchwarden. We know you're still going to be at church and singing in the choir. And I'm looking forward to carrying on working with Phil. And at the AGM, we will have another churchwarden to replace Steve. And the whole cycle starts again, I guess. But the important thing is that we're a family here at Holy Trinity. We work together, and that is what makes the church the church. So thank you both very much today for taking the time out of your drinking time, rather. And I will catch up with you soon.
So there you are, everyone. When the churchwardens at Holy Trinity start talking about going down to the office, you know it's the pub. Let's have our hymn today now. Our hymn is a harvest hymn as we continue on that theme from last Sunday. And please do join in at home. It is "Come, ye thankful people, come." lovely hymn, one that you've got to have if you have a harvest, Thanksgiving, celebration of any kind. Well, now we're going to take a visit, our first visit to Devon today, and a place which some of you may have visited. If not, I hope this will be of interest to you. Well, we're here today in Westward Ho. A strange name for a village. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute, but we're at the very top end of the village, not quite in the resort itself. This part of the resort to the north is very, very rural and very picturesque. As you can see, the coastline is very rugged here, not at all like our own Weymouth coastline, of course. So the rock formations here are tremendous. And looking over here today, you can see Lundy in the distance. So we're really not far. Probably Westward Ho is the nearest point to Lundy, and I know that there are boat trips that go out from here for tourists. It's a lovely day here. It must be dreadful when it's raining, but as we pull the camera around now, you can begin to see the coastline, the North Devon coastline, and you'll catch a glimpse shortly of the village of Westward Ho. So it's a little bit further down, but there's some great walks along the coastline here down to the village, which really is just a seaside resort these days. Westward Ho, of course, gets its name from the novel Westward Ho by Charles Kingsley, 1855. So there's Westward Ho in the background, and here you can see the lovely grassed areas with seats pointing in all directions because the views are just so stunning. Well, this field area is owned by the Braddock family. The Braddock family is a well-known family in Westward Ho, and they have been in the community for about 70 years, and they own this land and have leased it back off the council, Torridge Council. It was bought originally by Torridge Council, but owned before that by the Braddock's grandfather. So really they've come home to the land. But not only do the Braddocks live in Westward Ho, but they own lots of restaurants and small businesses in the community. And if you're ever in Westward Ho, a visit to the Pier House is well worth a visit. And there's Lundy in the distance there. As we swing around, you can see how hilly the whole landscape is here, and how it falls down to the sea. And the area up on the hillside here is actually quite like rough moorland, but hugely popular with tourists who walk all around here. So this really is a lovely part of Westward Ho to visit when you come down. If you like the beach, go further down into the village, but if you like walking, then come here. So here we are now at Seafield Car Park, and you'll see the most famous car park in England. and it's leased by the Braddock family. Rob Braddock bought it to give something back to the Westward Ho community for free. He also bought the derelict detached house that you are about to see. It's a very, very mysterious house, standing lonely but with the most fantastic views. And he bought this house on the edge of the Seafield car park for the sum of £414,000. And this house is reputed to be one of the most haunted houses in Devon, built around 1885 as a summer residence for the Brinsley de Courcy family. Brinsley de Courcy was a London banker from Limerick in Ireland. And during the Second World War, the house was used by the Ministry of Defence as the officers' quarters, with Italian prisoners of war accommodated in nearby fields. It's a very, very imposing house. I don't know whether you can ever describe a house which looks like something out of a horror film, but I can tell you that this one does. But it's a fascinating place. Has 12 bedrooms and is in very bad need of repair, but is quite a landmark in the area, and certainly when people park in the car park here, that's the first thing that you see. So this is Westward Ho, and I would recommend a visit if you're ever in this part of Devon. Well, I hope you enjoyed that visit to Westward Ho. We were able to distance far better up at the end of the village or the resort where we were. I must say it was packed with tourists when we drove through the centre of the resort, and I was amazed to see, despite all the calls for distancing and wearing masks, there were very few people adhering to any of it. So, it's really quite worrying, isn't it? Let's hope that people will start to abide by the rules and we can begin to get to grips with this dreadful pandemic, which is affecting so many dear people in so many different ways. Well, back to Devon now, and perhaps our little reflection today will bring us into focus for our prayers.
Well, good morning. Oh, that was quite a hill I just climbed. I wonder whether I'm getting too old for it really now. But I couldn't resist coming out this morning on this beautiful, beautiful sunny morning. It's really quite hot already, although when I first started out it was quite chilly. I've been thinking today a little bit about St. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 17, verse 20. Jesus said to them, "Because of your little faith, for truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." When I was a child, I can remember quite often our vicar saying to us, you need to have faith, and your faith will move mountains. You've probably heard that expression too. And I used to think, gosh, I really will need a lot of faith to move a mountain. Yes, some big deal. I don't believe that. I thought I'd need to be some kind of super Christian. A bit like those magicians who play with fire and then they warn you, don't try this at home. And yet Jesus took a bunch of uneducated fishermen, tax collectors, nobodies, really a bit like you and me, called them disciples and expected them to have faith. 5,000 hungry people, you remember this parable? And the disciples said, Jesus, you've got to send them away. There's no food. We can't possibly feed them. And he said to them, no, we won't send them away. You feed them. He expected them to exercise their faith, to use it, to live it, to make a difference in the world for him, with the faith the size of a mustard seed. Well, that would be enough, a small faith in an almighty God. And do you know what his attitude to faith teaches me? A small bit of faith is a mighty thing. But of course, if it's safe to try it at home. In fact, we're meant to. Have a nice day. God bless.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little reflection. Some food for thought. Well, we're coming to the end of another programme, a Thursday afternoon together, where we all meet for more tea. And as we come to the end of the programme, I would like you to reflect on the harvest theme of thanking God for his creation, thanking God for our environment and how important it is that we look after that creation which is God-given. And also, I wish you God's blessing in your homes and with your families for this coming week. And I hope to see you again next Thursday for another edition and a few more stories of more Tea Vicar. Well, I'd like to say I'm going down in the office now, but I'm not. I'm in my office and it's back to work. But may God bless you and keep you.